Well, it's 6:05, so hi everyone. We're gonna kick off this Zoom officially. My name is Emmett, and I'm the Director of Communications here at God's Love We Deliver, and we're thrilled that you've joined us for our town hall meeting tonight. Tonight you're going to hear from so many leaders here at God's Love We Deliver, but before we start, we just want to have a few housekeeping notes. First things first, you guys can talk, laugh, chew, do whatever you need to do because you're on mute. The panelists are not, so we cannot hear you, nor can we see you. All of your video is turned off. We do miss you. We want to see you eventually, but just not right. It's town hall. We do ask that you fill the chat with any questions that you might have. We bet that we will answer a lot of your questions as we go through our presentation, but just in case, please feel free to leave your question in the chat. That chat is only visible to the panelists that you see on your screen right now and is not public. We do also want you to know that we are recording this town hall meeting so that we can send this out to everybody tomorrow, just as a recap. And yeah, so those are the housekeeping notes. And with all of that, I'm just going to turn this over to Karen Pearl, our President and CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmett, and welcome everybody. It is so good to see so many of our volunteers and friends and supporters joining us. And I do love, John just sent an email that said, wish we could chop and pack over Zoom. And I am with you on that. I wish we could all be together. And we will be one day, hopefully sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, I really hope that you're all staying well and that you are taking care of yourself and staying safe. And we're doing everything we can here at God's Love to make sure that people who are in our building, our staff, volunteers, visitors, vendors, whoever may come in, are safe and healthy. And we're doing everything we can to make sure, most especially that our clients as well are safe. And we'll tell you about all the different ways that we're doing that. So since we saw so many of you, it feels like a century ago, although of course it's only been a couple of months, but that's long enough. Virtually everything at God's Love has changed, and except for one very important thing. But what has changed? Everything. Our menu, our protocols, our fundraising, kind of across the board, and we'll go into that. But the one thing that has not changed is the love that we put into every one of our meals and every one of our deliveries. And I can tell you from the notes that we get from our clients and the phone calls we get from our clients that they are really, really grateful. They feel the love, they feel the support, and especially now it is not only important to them, but it is really added to the life-saving meals that we give because they are feeling so alone and so isolated and so scared. And our presence, whether it's literally at the delivery point, on the phone, or just knowing that we're there and all the kinds of special things that we have done for volunteers during this period has made a world of difference to them. God's Love got started 35 years ago. And we just, in fact, celebrated our 35th anniversary last week. We hope to be able to sell that in a bigger, grander way before too long. And as you know, we got started in the height of a different pandemic, the AIDS pandemic. And the one thing that has been true since day one and continues to be true in this time is that we know how to provide food and nutrition with love to people who are isolated and who are scared. And in a time when the whole community, the whole city here in New York, but the whole country and the world are equally scared about getting sick. So we share a lot in common with our clients right now about the anxiety and the fear of these times, but we also are honored that we can address some of that for them. But taking care of people who are sick in a time of pandemic and in a time of crisis is simply in our DNA. It's what we do here at God's Love, and we have taken lessons from that time and all of the 35 years in between and use those in developing our strategies now for how we are going to get through the coronavirus pandemic. And I must say that I am exceedingly proud of all of our staff and all of our volunteers, those of you who can still come in and those of you who can't, that's okay too, and our entire community for all that we've been able to accomplish during these difficult times. I really thank you for all of your love and support and all of the hard work that you are doing to help us stay afloat, again, whether you're on site or sending us notes and emails and just being a presence with us. And we've learned so many valuable lessons during these last 8 weeks. We've learned that God's love is valued by the community and relied upon, and that we are indispensable in the lives of our clients and their families. We've learned that taking care of our clients is both a huge honor and a huge cost during these times, and we are able to make that investment because of the generous community that surrounds God's love, our generous community of friends and supporters. And I again thank all of you for that. So many of you have donated during these times, and we are really, really grateful for your support. So let me very quickly review what the agenda is for this hour, for this town hall, and then we will dig into some of the content. First, we're going to do some context setting about where God's love fits in the national scene around food and nutrition, and then within the city's efforts around food and nutrition services. Then we're going to update you on changes that we have made in our production, in our protocols, and how we have been using new supplies. We're going to talk a little bit about revenue and costs and some of the concerns we have going forward, and then wrap up with communications and how we are trying to keep all of you and our broader community engaged and involved during the pandemic times. And then lastly, we are going to have questions and answers, which is why Emmett keeps asking you to put any questions that you might have into the chat box, or any comments that you may have. We may call out some comments too. And so that we will be sure that we can address what's on your mind if we haven't done it in the more formal part of the presentation. I'm going to now introduce our speakers in the order in which we're going to be talking. So the first person I'd like to introduce you to is Alissa Watson, who is our Director of Policy and Planning. She will be followed by Daria Walters, who's our Senior Director of External Affairs. Daria will be followed by me, but then again after that by David Ludwigson, our Vice President, Chief Development Officer. And then Emmett will come on back to wrap up, who is our Director of Communications. Emmett will be our last speaker, but I do want to call out that we are being wonderfully supported in this town hall by Julie Van Door, who's our Director of Systems, making sure that all this technology between us and the chat room and the slides that we're going to show you stays in order. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Alissa.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Karen. I am going to lead everybody through a bit of our national focus during this crisis. As many of you know, God's Love leads the national coalition of our peer medically tailored meal agencies, the Food is Medicine Coalition, or affectionately called FMIC. And each year, God's Love mounts an ambitious capacity building technical assistance program for the field with the generous help of the MacAIDS Fund. And this culminates in a national symposium in DC each year. So since the beginning of this pandemic, we've really recognized the need for collaboration and sharing among peer organizations. Medically tailored meal providers have been compelled to innovate virtually every day, with guidance changing on an almost hourly basis. We've created new protocols, interpreting guidance in real time to keep volunteers, staff, and clients especially safe. So to better share this wisdom, God's Love piloted a discussion series with our fellow agencies where we've been able to really glean from each other's expertise and experience with topics from safety protocols to menu streamlining to delivery changes, and it's been really well received. From the policy perspective, as we endeavor as a nation to keep individuals with serious underlying conditions and the elderly safe en masse, nutrition really, especially the home-delivered kind that we provide, has emerged as an essential part of that plan. And medically tailored meal agencies have also emerged as experts in this field. What has also come to light is how very little government funding there is for our services. Most FMIC agencies, including God's Love, raise the majority of our budgets each year. So we're really hoping that this means that this is the moment where real change happens in this area. We're also collaborating with our partners in the anti-hunger world to advocate for a less fragmented food system. For instance, on our monthly call this Thursday, we're pleased to welcome representatives from FRAC and Meals on Wheels America, who will be adding the experience of their relative fields to our knowledge base. Collaboration was absolutely key at our beginning, and it remains so today, and we're really thankful to be innovating among our peers across the country. So I'm going to now turn it over to Alissa Walters, who's our Senior Director of External Program Affairs, and she's going to lead us through how we're collaborating locally with our city.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Alissa. I'm so glad to be here this evening with all of my colleagues. We at God's Love were honored to be recognized as an essential provider in the city, and that has been amazing for us because that meant that we can continue to operate to serve the individuals that we care so much about. We are a key partner in collaborating with other food service agencies throughout the city, and we are currently working with the Office of Emergency Management as part of the Food Access Leadership Team, and that means that we're working with all of the major nonprofit food service providers to make sure that individuals dealing with food insecurity or malnutrition are being served well across the city. We are also working with the Food Czar, who is Catherine Garcia, as well as the Mayor's Office of Food Policy with Kate McKenzie as that lead. We are also part of a great coalition that we are really excited to be a part of, the New York City Rapid Response Coalition, which is helping us collaborate with restaurants and other caterers and other organizations to really address food needs across the city. Remember, everyone isn't necessarily eligible for our program, but we want to make sure that if someone's looking for food or support in that way, that we can connect them quickly. We're also part of the New York City mass feeding plan with volunteer organizations, which means that we've been able to leverage those relationships to have additional volunteer support, additional opportunities to kind of connect with new individuals and social service agencies. And most of all, we're super excited to share that the City Council has awarded us $2 million to manage this significant increase in our clients and meals, which Karen mentioned earlier. We're so thankful, especially to Speaker Corey Johnson and the entire City Council. So thanks for me, and then I'm handing it over back to Karen.
Thank you, Alissa. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about a program update so you get a sense of what this pandemic has been like for us here on the ground at God's Love. So we had a question about our growth in our services, and at the same time, Alissa has previewed that. I'm going to have you go to the next slide, if you would. So this is Renard, one of our wonderful clients, and he's just one of a growing number of clients. So since March 1, we have grown 22% in clients. We have added over 1,000 clients. Today, we are serving more than 5,000 people. That is a really significant jump in no time at all. It's 5 times the rate that we normally add clients to our program. So we are still processing literally thousands of referrals, but one innovation that has made that easier for us is an eligibility screener that we have added onto our website, where in the first week, over 1,000 people answered a series of questions to determine whether or not they were eligible for our program. And most of you know, means you have an underlying serious illness, severe illness, and you're limited in your activities of daily living, like walking, carrying, lifting, all the things that you need to be able to do physically to shop and cook or cook. And of those 1,000 people who went through the screener, about half were eligible for our program and about half were not. And as Alissa just spoke about, we then do a warm handoff to make sure that they can access other food programs that are appropriate to their needs. We've also grown 22% in the meals that we provide. So today we are cooking and then packaging and delivering about 10,000 meals a day. That is a really big jump for us. And it is putting a stress on our delivery systems, because really going to 1,000 new people in virtually no time is really hard to ramp up to. So in that ramping up, our drivers are doing about 70 to 80 deliveries per day, rather than 50 to 60 deliveries per day. So that's a big jump, and we are doing everything we can to support them, including ensuring that they have van assistance so they can take some of the stress off of the driver to do the whole thing. So a lot of people, the number one question that I'm asked is, why are you growing so much? Like, why are all of a sudden all these people needing God's love when maybe they didn't need you before March 1st? And I think there are a lot of answers to that. And the very short answer is that the world has completely changed. So people who were sick and at home, who might have been supported in other ways, have lost those supports. And they now need the nutritious meals that only God's love provides. They may have lost home health aides. They may have lost friends and family who are no longer visiting for fear of making the client sick. Not so much sick that they're frightened of them getting sick. They don't want to bring any germs into the home. Many of the senior centers that were supporting people and getting them meals closed literally overnight, and seniors were without food and didn't know where to go. And then the greater visibility of our services, with it being known that we were still open and operating, had people flocking to us. So we're in the process of sorting out again who's appropriate for our program and getting them on and getting them fed, and then doing that warm handoff to other programs that can do home delivered meals for other people who need food, definitely need food, but they don't necessarily need the individually tailored and medically tailored meals that God's love provides. We also realized that we needed to do some other kinds of innovations, and very early on in the pandemic, in mid-March, did a bag of shelf-stable food to make sure that should any delivery problem happen, from a van breaking down to an apartment building not allowing any visitors in, we could in fact make sure that our clients had food to eat. So in March, we did a week's worth of shelf-stable food. And just a couple of weeks ago, we added to that 2 more weeks of shelf-stable food, so that clients have a lot of food in their home that is nutritionally equivalent to the regular meals that we provide. So if in fact we are unable to get them to them for a delivery, they are not abandoned and without food. And we did a total of 210,000 shelf-stable meals that went out to every single client. And I cannot tell you the heartwarming kinds of comments that we've gotten from our clients. Again, from the position of being so anxious that something is going to go wrong, and they are going to be forgotten, and they are not going to have food. And having the shelf-stable food just made it such a relief for them to know that, again, should something go wrong, they are well taken care of. So this is the food before it was packed. This is the food now that it is packed. It was in all of these bags, and you can see some of the food sticking out. There was some pasta, applesauce, tuna fish, peanut butter, crackers, rice, lots and lots of food that went into everybody's home. And then we packed them out in our delivery vans, and you can see here we have Jesus, some of you may know Jesus, with a mask on and gloves, which you can't quite see, but he is being very careful about how we are handling food, and then about anybody who may be helping them, which is why he's masked. At the end of the weekend, where we packed out all this food and got it out, here's a picture of many of our volunteers and staff who worked on that weekend. Again, socially distant, all masked and wearing gloves, again, making sure that what we do is safe and is we're not going to get each other sick, and then at the delivery we're not going to get our clients sick. So I'm going to switch a little bit now. That's a little bit of the growth in our program and what we're doing to make sure that we can manage that growth. What I'd also like to do now is tell you a little bit about all the changes that we have made internally to production and our protocols and our supplies. So before I do, again, any questions that you may have as I'm talking, I don't know, maybe you're sending them in, but feel free to continue to send us questions and comments, and Emmett is curating as he is also listening. So in terms of our protocols, I'm going to start there. In terms of our production, I'm going to start there. We have already streamlined our menu because we needed to make it a little less individualized during this time to manage growth and to manage the reduction in volunteers. And the reduction in volunteers is from two different reasons. One, actually many reasons, but one is for any number of reasons, volunteers who are normally coming here on a regular basis cannot come. Our corporate groups have canceled because they're not working, and therefore they're not doing, they're not working in their offices, and they're not doing service days. And also for social distancing. We just cannot have as many people in the building as we are used to having. And so we have streamlined the menu. We have instituted across everything we do, social distancing, masks, and really upped all the sanitizing that we're doing, both of the building, but also, frankly, of all of us. So now when our volunteers, staff, anybody who comes into the building, we do a screening to see whether people are feeling any of the 9 symptoms that have been identified as COVID symptoms. If they pass our screening, they literally step into the building, have hand sanitizer that they must use. And then when they get to wherever they're going, whether it's at their offices or a volunteer shift, then people have to wash their hands with soap and make sure that they are practicing the best sanitation. We have really invested in cleaning and sanitizing our building on a very regular basis. We have separated meal packaging onto 2 floors. It's now on the 1st floor and the 5th floor. So we, again, can separate all the volunteers and the staff and make sure that people are social distanced. We've instituted a number of changes to our delivery protocol. The first is that our drivers use hand sanitizer before and after every single delivery, or the volunteer van assistant who may be doing the delivery. And then we do no contact deliveries now. So the driver calls ahead. When they get to the door, knocks very loudly, leaves the food, but doesn't walk away, steps back 6 or 8 feet. And when the client opens the door to take the food, they can still have the same conversation that they have on every day when they do a delivery. It's just that they can't actually hand each other the bag. And then we've also instituted a lot of working from home. Again, not for people who are in production or supporting our production, like our volunteer department or our facilities department, or kitchen, meal packaging, and delivery. But people who can work from home, we have invested in the technology that they need to do that, and we have worked to fix our systems so that they actually can work from home, like our client services people and who get a lot of phone calls from clients, or nutrition who gets phone calls from clients. That's all been routed to their laptops so that they don't have to use personal phones and can answer client calls and be part of our regular call center. So there's a lot that has gone on in those areas. Here's just a couple of photos to show you. This is our kitchen, what it looks like now. So those of you who are kitchen volunteers and haven't been around for a while, you will see how spread out people are. Everybody's wearing masks. Of course, everybody wears aprons and gloves and hairnets and hair coverings all the time. But that's kind of a whole shift right there. So we're very conscious of not having too many people around at any one time. The next photo shows you our delivery, again, masked and gloved, and safely carrying all of our food. And that is Fred, our driver, and we're happy that Fred is, you can see him smiling in his eyes. We've learned to appreciate everybody's smiles through their eyes. And then no contact, no personal contact delivery. Here we have Milagros, again, one of our great clients who just picked up her food and is looking around the corner of her door to talk with her driver and to say thank you, probably, because Milagros says thank you a lot, but also just to check in, and the driver checks in and says, how are you doing, and how are you feeling today? So there's still the very much personal connection. It's just 6 or 8 feet away. So with that, I will turn this over to David, who will talk with you about revenue, costs, and concerns.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. Delighted to be with you tonight and to see so many familiar names on the list of people who have tuned in. Thank you for doing that. And I just want to start with truly a heartfelt thank you to all of you and to all of our other supporters who have stood by us in these really difficult times, whether it's financial support or you're volunteering or in-kind donation or just offering moral support. When I show you some numbers here in a minute, you'll understand why it's so important to us, given the increase in demand from our clients and what that's going to mean for our budget going forward. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will talk a little bit about costs first, and then revenue, and then some things that are keeping us awake at night. But I'd like to start with a review of our expenses, which is between March 1st and the end of December of this year. What we're estimating is that our incremental expense strictly related to COVID is going to be in the neighborhood of $7 to $8 million. And that's going to show up in three buckets, directly related to the clients, of course, and in staffing, and then in supplies and equipment. Karen mentioned we're up 22% since March 1st in clients. That's 1,000 new clients. We expect to add 1,500 additional clients in May and June. So by the start of the fiscal year, we'll be around 6,500 clients on board. And just to give you an idea of what that means for our budget, an additional 2,500 clients will add about $11 million at a fully loaded meal cost to the annual budget. So it's significant, especially when you consider that it happened over the course of just 4 months. The other large expense related to staff, of course, is the non-perishable meals that are really critical. We've done the 21 days. That has been at the cost of about $750,000. In terms of staffing, we have added temporary staff in nearly every department, delivery, volunteer services, the kitchen, client services, community partners, you name it. As we ramp up this quickly, we need extra people. So that, of course, is an extra expense. And then there's extra staff expense in terms of incentives so that we can pay overtime and have people work weekends and then offer bonuses as well. And then in terms of supplies and equipment, we have had to rent a lot of delivery vans to help keep up. Karen mentioned that we've added computers and other equipment so that our staff can work remotely at a fairly large cost. And then personal protection equipment. We've been lucky to have a lot of that donated in terms of masks and hand sanitizers, but we're also purchasing a lot. And finally, just the general cleaning and sanitation and upkeep of the building has added considerable expense to the budget. So again, anticipate between March and the end of the calendar year, that number to be $7 to $8 million. On the revenue side, there's some good news. I'll talk about revenue, and this is specific COVID fundraising. This is not our annual fund revenue, that's separate. So on the COVID side, we'll look at revenue from our healthcare partners, direct COVID fundraising, and then finally government revenue. So as our healthcare plans are referring clients to us, we really like that. And we expect about half of these new clients to come from the plans. And the good thing about that is they come with their own revenue. So these are clients that would otherwise be eligible for the program. We would gladly feed them for free, but they come with revenue. So that's a win-win for everybody. The second thing is COVID direct fundraising, which since March 1st, we have raised $5.1 million specifically for COVID. And that's from individuals, from corporations, from foundations, all the usual sources. And interestingly, we're really proud that we have raised more than $1 million through our digital fundraising efforts, which for us is a huge amount. So thank you for everybody that is following Who Are You Cooking For or any of our other efforts and making a contribution. And then finally, on the government side, we've received 2 significant gifts. Karen mentioned the $2 million, or Drea did, from the city, which is terrific. And we've also received a $1.3 million PPP grant, so a total of $3.3 million in government funding. So that part is going well. Now, some risks, some concerns. What is keeping us up at night? Of course, fundraising is. We're concerned about overall fundraising going forward. We don't really have anything to compare this to. The closest might be the Great Recession, which was December of 2007 through June of 2009. In that case, fundraising across the country declined between 4% and 7%. At God's Love, we were basically flat during that period. But again, most people are saying we're not really sure if that's a good comparison. So we're not really sure what will happen to fundraising at God's Love. But we have some other concerns, of course. Event fundraising, we do a lot of event fundraising at God's Love. Everybody's concerned about events right now. If we're allowed to ask large numbers of people to gather, the question is, will large numbers of people want to gather? So that's a question mark. Corporate and foundation funding will be a question mark, both in terms of some of the wonderful gifts we're receiving now. If those are in lieu of gifts that we expected later, that'll create an issue. And then secondly, the endowments that support these gifts are going to be down for corporations and foundations. That's the bad news. The good news is they usually give on a 3-year rolling average, so it's not going to hit us all at once. And then finally, the area of major gifts, people are going to find less money in their portfolios. Are they going to continue to give? Of course, we hope so. And then expenses. As our numbers surge, if they continue to grow at that rate, of course, fundraising will have to grow. Expenses are going to grow. So these are all things that we're looking at. We are in the budgeting process right now for fiscal 21. And what we're going to do is we'll kind of do a best case scenario and a worst case scenario, and we'll probably end up somewhere in the middle. But we will be sure to stay in touch and to communicate. And again, thank you for your support, and thank you for your future support as we look forward. So I think that's it for me. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Communications, Emmett Findley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emmett. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. And just a friendly reminder for those of you who might have missed the message at the beginning, if you have any questions that we haven't answered yet, please feel free to add them into the chat. They are only viewed by us panelists. They're not viewed by anyone who's attending tonight's town hall. So go ahead and write in the chat your questions, and we hope to get to all of them. So from a communication standpoint, we're pretty sure you've heard from us a lot in email and social media, but that's on purpose. We want to make sure that you are as up to date as possible on everything that we're doing at God's Love to keep our volunteers, staff, clients safe and as healthy as possible and loved and cared for. So to that end, we've been online across Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, sharing literally day to day, minute by minute, hour by hour updates. Just a couple on the screen right there are some updates from some recent moments here at God's Love. We don't have a TikTok yet, but you know, time will tell. We'll probably, you know, we can change, we can innovate. And you know, we hope that you find us there. If not, of course, you'll hear from us via email. Karen has been sending a weekly update to everybody since the beginning of the pandemic, and we don't have any plans to stop that because, you know, there are changes every week and updates to send all of you. Next slide, please. One of the exciting things that sounds a little bit strange. One of the things to come out of COVID-19 is sort of innovation on how we can keep our community together at a time when we're all apart. And that's with the power of social media. We've harnessed the power of social media to make that happen. We have launched a new campaign called #WhoAreYouCookingFor. Please go ahead and search right now on your Instagram. This is a campaign where individuals are asked to take a photo or a video of the latest meal masterpiece that they've made, and to share it on social media. When they share it, you're asked to tag the friends that you wish you could share that meal with. We can't all go out to dinner together anymore, but we can talk about it online. And instead of going out to dinner, you take the money that you would have spent on dinner and you donate it to God's Love We Deliver. This has been a wildly successful campaign, and so many people have participated. We've seen over 400, maybe 500 posts at this point with friends and board members and volunteers. Thank you to everyone who's participated. We've also had some celebrities participate as well. You may have seen Michael Kors's post, Aaron Lauder's post, Kyle McLaughlin, Chef Amanda Freitag, so many wonderful friends of God's Love We Deliver. And thank you to all of you at home who have really shown off your culinary skills and brought us to your homes so we can all be together. So that's Who Are You Cooking For? #WhoAreYouCookingFor. If you haven't seen it yet, feel free to head online. If you have a question about it, everyone can still participate in this campaign. This campaign isn't going anywhere. But if you have a question, you can ask about it in the chat here. You can DM us across all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Next slide, please. And just as I mentioned before, we're really using our social media as a way to communicate to you all of the measures that we're taking to keep our clients, volunteers, staff, and community happy, healthy, and safe. As you can see on the left, we've got good old Milagros over there. She's a delight, showing off her delivery. She's smiling behind that mask. And then we've got our volunteers smizing over here in the kitchen. We'll do our best to share more minute-by-minute updates from God's Love to really show you all the effort that we're taking to do the work that you help us do. And the next slide, please. And maybe you've been browsing through the New York Times recently, or you're flipping through some channels, but God's Love We Deliver has been everywhere in terms of press. Just a couple weeks ago, we were featured in the New York Times with a story of our wonderful driver, Edward, who delivers regularly to our client, Herbert. If you didn't catch that story, you can do a quick Google, or you can head to the link in our bio on Instagram for that link, or you can go to our website. You can find that story everywhere. Karen Pearl was recently interviewed on MSNBC on their Saturday noon PM show, and that was really wonderful. And that was a great national hit. And then we've seen great press here locally, here in New York City. We've been on New York One and local NBC, with more press opportunities to come. All of these stories are talking about our volunteers who are giving so much, our clients who really depend on us, and all of you, the people who make this work possible. So feel free to share all those links. Make sure your family and friends know what we're up to. And again, all the work that you make possible. So that ends the communications slide. And I hear from in the chat, some of you really want us to get on TikTok. So I'll take a quick second to learn TikTok and we'll get back to you. And so that ends the meeting type part of our town hall meeting here, but we do want to open up the floor, if you will, to all the great questions that you all have been sending in. So again, if you've got a burning question that we haven't answered yet, please feel free to add that in the chat. Again, it's only, the chat is only visible by the panelists here. Panelists, are you ready? Fantastic. We've had some excellent questions. So one of the first questions we got was, I can't come in to volunteer. What can I do from home? I think, David, you might want to answer that.
Sure, thanks. Well, we understand a lot of people can't come in, and in fact, we don't want everybody to come into the building right now. We've determined that about, I think the number is 18 is the right number to be able to get all the work done and to maintain social distancing. That's in the kitchen, for instance. But in the meantime, there's lots of things that people can do. Of course, donating is always one of them. I'll put that out there first. But what's really important to us right now also is, Emmett, what you're speaking about is getting the word out, telling people about our work, whether it's through participating in Who Are You Cooking For, or just sharing one of our stories on Facebook, whatever it might be. We also have, if you have kids and they want to do craft projects, we could have them do cards for our clients for their birthday or for the holidays. So there's lots of ways that people can stay engaged with God's love that don't involve coming here to the building.
Thanks, David. We've got another great question, just generally around everything that we've done to accommodate the pandemic and get through it. The question is, how is everyone holding up? Karen, you might want to answer that.
Sure. So that is a great question, because obviously we spend a lot of time worrying about our clients and wanting to take great care of them. But at the same time, we really care very much about taking care of our staff and volunteers. And the staff have been working exceedingly hard. Managing this growth has been very taxing across the board. It doesn't matter which department you're working in, because everybody's work has just been escalated in a time when, of course, we're all distracted and people are scared and they are anxious. And so we are spending a lot of time taking care of our staff. In fact, after we did the 2 weeks worth of shelf-stable food, which was a push, it was 7 days in a week working, because we did our regular work for the Monday through Friday, and then we had a big weekend delivery project. We closed for a week, and we paid our staff to stay home and rest and to rejuvenate, because it was really just important for them to get a break, to take care of themselves, to really recoup their energy, and people were all very, very happy about that and very grateful for the time. So we've planned a lot of incentives throughout these weeks, and will going forward throughout a couple of more months. Hopefully this will end before too long, but we're conscious of that. And we're paying a lot of attention to people's energy, to their ability to keep pushing. But I will say what shines through in all of this is our staff's tremendous commitment to our clients and to ensuring that they get the food and nutrition that they need. And that we are there for them and we are responsive, and they have not failed on that. That's been wonderful.
Thanks, Karen. Another question that's come up is the measures, and I know that you've touched on this briefly, but the measures that we're taking to keep our volunteers and our staff, but generally people in the building and on the roads, safe. So can you speak a little bit to that? Sorry, Karen. I'm going to give that the measures that we're taking to keep our volunteers safe. So screening and masks and gloves.
Yep. So we are keeping people safe, as I said earlier, about all the health screening before people come in the door, the hand sanitizing as soon as they get in, hand washing throughout, and then of course the social distancing. And I will admit that has been a challenge. We have had a number of volunteers who've written to us after a shift and said, it wasn't so great today. And we get it. It was very hard for all of us to get used to social distancing. And I think we all still make mistakes. You get too close to somebody. There's a line out here at Trader Joe's where they've got people making sure, that you're a certain number of feet away from each other. But what we have done to really help with that, and I think we've made enormous strides and feel really great about where we are now, is that we've actually hired people just to focus on social distancing, to walk through the kitchen, to walk through meal packaging, to make sure that it's working. And I think those pictures that you see, you may think that those were staged just so we had nice pictures to show you, but they're not. They really were how people are working in the kitchen and then in meal packaging. And it's really important that we help remind people. So we spend a lot of energy and resources just making sure that's working and that's working smoothly. And we are doing our very best to hit 100%. I think we're very, very close, but it's it's behavior change, and that is hard, particularly for volunteers who are regularly here. And part of the reason you come is the close camaraderie. So, but we're doing it, and we're very, very close, if not there.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I know that I like to say to volunteers, X marks the spot when they come in to volunteer in the kitchen now, because there's literally an X marked with tape on the kitchen floor so that everybody knows their precise spot. And I think the visual is really helpful, but of course, all the constant reminders from everybody as well. Another question that's come up is about our client base. Someone's asked if we are if we're delivering meals to individuals with COVID-19. And I wonder if, Dorea, that's something that you want to answer?
Hi, thanks, Em. Yeah, we are delivering to individuals that may be diagnosed, because remember that we have our normal eligibility criteria that someone has to have a serious illness and physical difficulties shopping and cooking meals for themselves. However, COVID simply exacerbates those underlying conditions that many of our clients have. So that's where we were very clear from the beginning that we had to make sure that we could safely deliver to those individuals to make sure that they got the nutritious meals that we prepare for them. So that's something that we're really proud of.
Thank you, Dorea. We've got, volunteers, board members, staff, and donors here in our town hall chat experience. And someone's asked, is there anything that we need in bulk that we need in terms of donations in kind? David, I think you might want to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can speak to a little bit of the items that we've received so far, perhaps from the restaurant industry and other industries.
Sure. It's a great question. And almost from the start of the pandemic, our community really rose up and came out to offer support of financial support, in-kind donations, volunteering, you name it. So we developed 4 separate groups here in the office that handled those requests. One group for financial donations, one group that handled in-kind, one group that handled requests for people who wanted to volunteer, and then a separate group that Dorea led of people who were looking for help with meals or wanted to donate meals. So on the in-kind side, we have done extremely well, especially with masks and hand sanitizers, which in the beginning were nearly impossible to get. But almost from the beginning, we have had them. And probably, if not this week, next week, we're going to receive a donation of 20,000 masks, and I believe an equal amount of hand sanitizers, the small ones, so that we can continue to put them in the vans with the drivers and for the van assistants. So for right now, in terms of personal protection equipment, I think we're okay, but we don't know how long this is going to last. So I would hold that answer, and maybe we check back in a month or 2 and see where we're at.
Emmett, can I jump in for a moment about other donations?
Please.
I think from the food supply chain side too, I just want to emphasize that we're really trying to cooperate with how the city is looking at that. Normally we are a partner with Grow NYC to receive produce from upstate farms and local milk and things like that. And as we look forward in this possible pandemic lasting for a time, we want to make sure that we're forward thinking in leveraging those resources in our great state. So we're working not only with the city, but also with the New York State Department of Health and the initiative through the Department of Agriculture to explore whether that's an option for us in the future. And just to pop back to Dorea for 1 second, the question she answered about whether we're serving patients that have COVID-19. We also early on, similar to instituting some new data protocols, added some questions to our intake just to try to understand why and how people are coming to us during this crisis. And that will help inform how we can understand the influx in referrals. So that's just a really important part of our research and evaluation.
Thank you, Alissa.
If I may add one other thing based on this last question that just came in. So we talked a lot about volunteers helping out in vans, but I should have also added that we have instituted a service where we have volunteers come with their own cars and on a more regular and formal way than we have in a long time. We do it every Thanksgiving, but usually we don't do it so much during the week. And now we're having lots of people coming in cars to volunteer to do deliveries for us on a regular basis. And that is so wonderful because it takes that much pressure off of our drivers in the vans. And so we encourage anyone who has two things. One is a car, and the second is a family member who they can come with, because it's much easier to do it with two people. Or a friend, or, some people are isolating with other families because of their living arrangements. So if you have two people to come in a car and you want to do deliveries, we will tell you the protocol. We'll give you all of the sanitizers, including masks and hand sanitizer, and we'll get you on the road, and that would be great.
Thank you, Karen. And we do want to, again, thank our volunteers for, your ingenuity and your flexibility at this time. We're all working so hard to manage something we've never experienced before. And though your support is just tremendous. To that end, there have been some suggestions in the chat with how we might be able to help from home if we can't come in. David mentioned earlier that you might want to decorate some cards for clients. So if you have young ones, or maybe you're an artiste yourself, we love to bring cards that really are just cheerful to our clients. Those are called cards of caring. Thank you so much. And those, you can see all the instructions on our website, but we'll send that out after in the recap of this of tonight. But also, someone mentioned the God's Love We Deliver cookbook. For those of you who don't know, we published a cookbook a couple years ago filled with fantastic recipes and stories from famous friends. So if you're cooking, you might as well cook from that cookbook. So if you've got your copy at home, why not take that out, and you might as well cook one of those recipes for our Who Are You Cooking For campaign. Okay, great. So we're going to ask our last question. We want to wrap up here because we recognize everybody's got we have places to be. You know what I mean? So I guess the last question that we're going to wrap up here, God's Love We Deliver is a beloved institution with and we've been around for 35 years. Can you speak to how we might be celebrating our 35th anniversary this year? And also, I don't want to let tonight go without talking about birthday cakes, because we got to know, are birthday cakes still getting delivered? And Karen, I think you're going to want to take that.
Okay, so let me start with birthday cakes. Maybe the most beloved thing that we do for our clients. Every client, if you don't know this, or child in the house, or a senior caregiver in the house helping to take care of the client, gets a birthday cake on their birthday. And it's a beautiful cake. It's iced, and it has on it, it's like you bought it in a bakery. It's got flowers, and it says, "Happy birthday, Emmett." And well, they don't all say "Happy birthday, Emmett," but if it were Emmett's birthday, it would say "Happy birthday, Emmett." And that is still being done. No matter how many people we get on service, they will get their birthday cake, which we're very, very happy about. So how are we celebrating our 35th anniversary? It was a little low key this year, to tell you the truth. So stay tuned for the 40th. That'll be a blowout. But we have, you'll see on all of our social media, as well as on our website, that we did lots and lots of postings because it is a very important moment, and we are quite proud to be doing the service, and particularly at these times, for 35 years. There was a third piece you asked me about. The birthday.
I can't remember because I'm laughing. I can't remember, but we're doing great.
Okay.
And for those of you who are interested in hearing some of the more of the voices and learning more about the people who have built God's love over these 35 years, we invite you to join us on social media and our blog, where we're posting audio interviews and other video interviews from people like Karen Pearl, but beloved staff members, former volunteers, and the people who really built God's love from the ground up since 1985.
And they're really quite heartwarming. You should, if you have a moment, I encourage you to listen. And the other thing I want to say about birthday cakes is lots of people say, I don't have a lot of money, I can't make a big donation. We certainly understand that. Every single dollar is very helpful to us. you can go on our website and donate for $10 of birthday cake. So that's a way to help us really bring great joy to the people who are counting on us. So Emmett, that's the birthday cake sale, right? And it's
Yeah.
on the website.
Exactly.
So it is just 7. I don't want to keep you longer than our time. I want to just say, number 1, we really miss you all. And number 2, we are so, so thankful for your support, for your caring, for your volunteerism, for your donations, for everything you do for us now, in the past, and the future. You have all helped to create the God's love that we're telling you about today. Even though it looks a little different, feels a little different, we will get back, I hope, to the God's love that we all know and love. But this isn't bad. We are managing through this, and we are taking care again of over 5,000 people every single day. So I want to say thank you again for calling in. Thank you for your great questions. And we are actually, one of our staff members just wrote into the chat and reminded us it is literally 7 o'clock. It is time to cheer on all of the essential workers. That includes our staff. They are essential workers, deemed so by the government. So please join us in thanking not only all the staff and volunteers and supporters here, but of course, all the people in the hospitals, the police, fire, all the people who are supporting our communities during this difficult time. And thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad you were here.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.